How's it going, everybody? Today I want to talk about a common problem that we see in bench press, and that is AC joint pain when benching. And a lot of people that have AC joint pain when they're benching are very frustrated. They try a bunch of different things and they can't figure it out. It's very painful, it hurts when you sleep, it affects your activities of daily living. So let's figure out how to get rid of it. So the most common reason that I see AC joint pain when benching is people that have a narrow or neutral position in their bench relative to their shoulder width, using an excessive arch like someone who would bench with a much wider grip. And why does that cause AC joint pain? When we have a narrow grip on a bench relative to our shoulders, when we come down, there is a slight tendency to have a little bit of anterior rotation of the shoulders. So as we're coming down, you see how that naturally just kind of rolls forward. So if I now create excessive arch as I'm coming down, and if I want to hit right here, it tends to create rolling of the shoulder, loss of upper back tightness, and the desire to heave and push. The alternative to that would be to let the bar come down almost below our solar plexus, kind of down into our stomach. Now, when we come down onto our stomach, it's hard to maintain tightness, and we tend to dump the forearm forward. And so if we dump the forearm forward, we then also create a little bit of flaring, lift our head, and now we are creating a bit of shearing through the AC joint because our shoulder blades are stuck on an external support, and then we're trying to roll forward and I can't move, so that joint is what's going to take the brunt of the shear force. So let me show you kind of the differences in how that looks. So if I'm going to set up with my regular bench, which is more neutral, I'm going to take a nice little arch, tuck my shoulder blades, lift my chest, and spread my base of support. Because I have a neutral bench, I'm going to be pushing back up towards the rack. So here we go. Bring it down, touch, and press up towards the rack. You see how I don't have a ton of shoulder rolling and a nice straight drive. Now if I were to set up almost as if I was going to be using a wide grip bench with my arch, you'll see a slight difference. So I'm going to arch up as much as I can, drop my legs down, and now come in with a relatively narrow bench. So as I come down, there's the desire to lift my head or to dump the bar onto my stomach. Then I can heave it back up. Well, in this position with a large arch, we're preferencing a straight line of drive with a wider style bench. So if I'm here and I'm driving straight up, there's not a lot of movement in my shoulder because my hands are really wide. But if I'm really narrow and I'm tucking, then that creates that desire to roll forward and stresses out the AC joint. So the fix for that is reducing the arch, spreading the base of support, and learning how to match the correct arch with the correct grip width. So when determining whether your grip width is relatively narrow or wide, look at your shoulders and then film from the back. If you're filming from the back, when you come down, your forearm is about 90 degrees to the ground, or a little bit in, maybe tiny bit out. We consider that a neutral to narrow bench. With that type of bench, you're typically going to bring your elbows down close to your side, rolling the bar and pressing it back up. With a wide grip bench, so my forearm is relatively acute in relationship to the ground, I'm going to bring it straight up and straight down. So there's going to be less rolling of the arms. How we can kind of tell which bench you preference is, well, sometimes you just may not have an option because you're so wide and the legal markings are there. That's just what it is. But if you are someone that has really poor internal rotation and shoulder extension and has decent external rotation and flexion, you're probably going to preference a wide grip bench. It's less demanding on the joint it's less demanding on rotation of the shoulder. If you are someone that has both good flexion and external rotation, as well as good internal rotation and extension, and probably a larger person, you might preference a more narrow type bench. So if you have the preference for a narrow type bench, make sure that you set up in a manner that does not create the desire to dump onto the stomach or the desire to lift the head off the bench. Now, some people do that as their technique. That's okay. There's always outliers. Some people have massive traps and their head naturally kind of lifts. Again, there's always outliers. But as a general rule of thumb, if our head's coming off the bench or if we're dumping the bar forward, flaring our elbows and rolling the shoulder forward, we're going to have AC joint pain. So film from the back, look at the forearm width in relationship to the ground, play around with internal and external rotation of the shoulder, see how much range of motion you have, and then start working on creating a tight and solid arch that is not excessive. Narrow grip bench, we're going to be pushing back towards the rack. Wide grip bench, we're going to be going straight up and down. So arch a lot, wider grip, those pair together. Arch a lot, narrow grip, those don't pair together as well. Give her a go and let me know how it goes for you guys.